at.
Thank you. So could you tell us, first of all, whether you've done any work on Assomption itself in regards to sea turtles?
Yes, I have. I've been to Assumption many times, starting in 1981. And I've probably been to Assumption at least 20 times. And whenever I'm there, I always checked out the beaches. And there were periods when I was there for up to 2 weeks, 10 days at a time. And every day I would go out and walk all the way around the island and count all the turtle tracks. So I have, some baseline information on what the status of the nesting turtles are that goes back quite a long way.
Okay, so could you tell us a little bit about what you found about the sea turtle population, about their habitat, about just the life of the sea turtles on Assomption?
Okay. Let me start with my PhD research, which I had done just before I came out here, was to assess what characteristics are important to nesting green turtles on Ascension Island in the South Atlantic. So I was kind of pre-adapted to assess that here. And I was impressed when I got to Assumption, because Assumption has the best green turtle beach in the whole country.
It's better than Aldabra?
Oh, definitely better than Aldabra. Aldabra has been fortunate because it has avoided a lot of the exploitation that other islands have had, because it's so hard to get to so many of those beaches. Right now, Aldabra has the largest green turtle nesting population in Seychelles. But I believe that at the turn of the 1900s, the 20th century, I think Assumption had more green turtles than Aldabra. And it has the potential to also have more green turtles moving forward.
So, of course, with the guano extraction and the 100 or so, even more workers on Assomption at that time, one of their main sources of food was green turtle.
Well, it was partly food and I think partly a way to make money. Because what they were doing was they were taking callipee, which is the cartilage inside the lower shell, and they were drying it and selling it to Europe. To UK, actually, or England at the time. And so, these guys could make some extra money at night by turning turtles over and drying it.
So what is the estimate of the population of sea turtles that were killed during that period?
Yeah, there were reports. There's a person named Hornell who was out there and had some biological background, and he was visiting Assumption in 1929, which is a while after this exploitation had been going on. So they probably had 20 years of intensive sea turtle exploitation already. But he reported in 1929 that in a single night, they could kill 200 to 300 turtles on the beach in one night. And that was on that main beach now that we see as, the controversial 37 Villa Beach.
Thank you. I'm going to just take a little pause just to check the connectivity issue we are having.
No, fine.
It's working? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I apologize for the interruption, Dr. Mortimer, to your testimony. We were talking about the large-scale destruction of sea turtles in the early 20th century. And you were saying that about how many a night were being slaughtered at that stage?
Well, there was Mr. Hornell in 1929 reported at the peak season they were killing 200 to 300 each night.
Thank you.
And that's quite a lot of turtles. And that's after exploitation had been going on already for 20 years, more than 20 years.
Thank you.
So it probably was higher at one point.
And do you know around what year did the extraction of guano and all the activities concerned with that actually stopped at Assomption?
Well, when I first went to Assumption, my very first visit to Assumption, they were just clearing out all the workers. So that was, I think, in '81. And, they brought, I remember they brought the old manager who was from Mauritius on board the Sengsa boat. And, so it was kind of, it must have been right around that time,
Okay.
So it had gone on for quite some time.
So at the baseline study that you first made yourself, what was the estimated population of the sea turtles then coming
Low.
up to this?
It was low. When I was, in fact, I was out there for, I was out there in 1982 for 2 weeks, about 10 days actually. And so I was able to get a really good feel for, what was going on. And the numbers of turtles left were really quite low. I estimated probably 200, which is left.
It wasn't 200 coming up every night to be
No,
slaughtered.
it wasn't anymore. But what's interesting about it is, green turtles will respond to protection if you give it to them. Mm-hmm. And Aldabra is a perfect example of that. If you look at the situation at Aldabra, you have 5 kilometers of nesting beach. 2 of those kilometers are the settlement beach where all the people live. So Aldabra had the same kind of situation as Assumption, because all the Seychelles who were living on Aldabra and harvesting mangrove and turtles and birds and whatever were also killing turtles on the beach each night. And so when I first went to Aldabra in 1981, I would do a survey of. I was surveying all the beaches, but I was doing I'd do a survey of Settlement Beach, walk 2 kilometers, and I might see 2 tracks. And it stayed like that between 1981 and 1992. And then finally, because I made several visits, during that period. And then in 1995, all of a sudden the turtles started to come back. And the numbers just, was so noticeable how they were going up. And now people who are working on Aldabra are telling me that on a really good night, they've had a couple hundred turtles on Settlement Beach in one night. Okay. So it just shows, these turtles are capable of coming back if you just give them a chance.
And in terms of the nesting sites in Aldabra, how does that compare to the size of the nesting site for sea turtles on Assomption?
Yeah, it's not as good. Aldabra has a total of 5 kilometers of beach, 2 of which are Settlement Beach. But all of the beaches on Aldabra are kind of difficult for the turtles in that when the tide is low, they have to crawl over the reef flat. And even for people, it's not a good place for swimming. When the tide is low, you're kind of walking around. And whereas Assumption, you have that long beach, almost 5 kilometers of that really nice, wide, white sand beach with a deep offshore approach. Turtles can come up, high tide, low tide, it doesn't matter. And right there you've got 5 kilometers, plus another couple kilometers scattered around the outside. So it's a hugely different. It's so much better.
So what was your last estimate of sea turtles coming up to the habitat in Assumption?
Well, I didn't make an estimate, but I've been gathering data, and I can put it together and come up with. I think I will probably be able to show that there's an increase. But just listening to the reports that Mr. Rich Baxter and Mr. Amir Ibrahim Dr. Amir gave this morning, they were seeing a lot of tracks, certainly more than the last time I was doing a full track count out there. Okay. So it shows that population is definitely recovering. And they're going to partly recover because there's going to be an exchange with Aldabra. So you're going to have some Aldabra turtles going over to help replenish Assumption.
Thank you. I think, Dr. Mortimer, you also had a look at the ESIA prepared for Assumption prior to the development being constructed, in fact. What are your views on the ESIA and on matters related to it?
Well, my biggest concern, I think there's a lot of good things about the ESIA. So but my biggest concern is when I look at the turtle section, I feel it was given maybe not enough attention, because the turtles, first of all, are extremely important, and I would say that whole western coastline is very high biodiversity. I mean, aren't the turtles high biodiversity? You can't just write them off. And also, I was fascinated to see the report of Dr. Bruno Sentier, where he's talking about the dwarf vegetation on the dunes, and that's fantastic stuff. That's really exciting. It's endemic vegetation.
Have you had occasion to carry out a similar ESIA on any other outer islands in Seychelles?
Well, I've been involved. I've worked with. I was involved with ICS for quite a long time, like more than about 20 years, and so I've been involved with how their development on the islands has interfaced with the turtles, and so at each island I've been dealing with. When they put in the development, how can you reduce the impact? And, I do surveys at night and say, oh, there's too many lights here, too many lights there. And the management of those islands were very interested in keeping the impacts low. So they were easy to work with. You'd say, look, there's too many lights in this area, and they'd immediately do something to fix it. And also you had the kind of development that you had was kind of low key. This is more modest development, little, not too much lighting. It was quiet, quiet for quiet people.
So could you yes, carry on.
And then I actually did the EIA assessment. I was paid to do the EIA assessment for Platte Island.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, Platte is very interesting because Platte is a very important hawksbill nesting island. I estimate, based on the surveys that had been done, there are probably 50 to 75 females nesting, and each female probably comes up 8 times. So you can imagine there's a lot of activity, and Platte is a very small island. It's about 55 hectares.
And how does the density of the development there compare to that of Assomption?
Well, the density of Platte is pretty intense. I don't think you could put more buildings on Platte than they've put. But so when they hired me to do the EIA I did it for sea turtles and also for seagrass. I wasn't sure that they would pay much attention because I thought, they're under so much pressure. They're trying to put all these buildings in. But I went ahead and said what I thought needed to be said. So I said, I think you need to have your setback line at least 60 meters behind.
Explain to us why.
Okay, the reason is the setback line is not just so you don't have a building on the beach. I mean, obviously that's a problem. You can't put a building on the nesting beach. But you want to be as far back from the nesting beach as possible. Because, for one thing, there's going to be human activity. You don't want people to walk outside and step on the turtles. But even more important is you need to have a buffer. You've got your beach, then you have your vegetation. And your vegetation is going to protect the beach from whatever lighting is associated with your buildings. And so you want to be as far back as possible. You want to also maintain the vegetation intact. You should not remove it at all. And so I told that to the Platte developers. I said, keep the vegetation intact. And I also pointed out that you needed to have turtle-friendly lighting, but it's not enough just to say turtle-friendly lighting. That's a very vague concept. Mm-hmm. We're actually at a point now where turtle-friendly lighting is extremely specific and technical. It has become a science at a global level. Okay. And so I made all these recommendations, and I just thought, we'll see what happens. But I came back, they invited me back a couple years ago, and I was amazed and really happy. They did everything I suggested. And, there's still problems out there because it's very tight. There's a lot but they did the best I think they could possibly do. And all the villas are at least 60 meters behind the high tide line, and half of them are even farther behind.
Okay.
So it can be done.
Could we have a little look at it in some of the photographs that you submitted? So on the left of the screen is the Platte Island development.
That's right. It's not a great picture, but it's the best I could find on Google Earth. But you can see the little circles are the villas. And oh, you're not there yet?
All the circles?
Yeah, those are all the villas.
Here.
Yeah, the little gray circles are villas. And you can see, I measured them out using Google Earth this morning, actually. Mm-hmm. And I thought, whoa, they're all 60 meters, It's great.
So even the ones that are closer to the crest is still 60 meters?
The closest ones are 60, so the farthest ones back are even farther. And so, I think that really the Platte Island development really needs to be commended for what they did because they did the best they possibly could given the high density of development on this important turtle beach.
And there again, they had an airstrip running,
Yeah,
bisecting the island in
it's
two.
mostly airstrip.
Yeah, it's mostly airstrip. Yeah.
But
You were still satisfied that at least the sea turtle's habitat has not been impacted.
yeah, and the turtles are still coming up, and ICS is monitoring them, and I think that they're doing, pretty well. I'm not saying there's no problems,
Okay.
but it could have been so much worse, and so I'm pretty happy. I think it's good.
Okay. So given your experience on Platt, were you contacted at all by ICS for the ESIA for Assomption?
No, I wasn't.
Were you surprised?
Yeah, I kind of was.
Yeah.
I was contacted to clarify some of my old papers, information in my old papers, but I was never contacted to give an opinion on what should be done.
Okay. So would you agree with both Dr. Ibrahim and Mr. Baxter this morning that the nesting area on the west beach of Assomption is, in terms of classification, highly important for the sea turtles
Absolutely.
and of biodiversity?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's important for the vegetation because it has unique coastal vegetation. But I mean, just the fact that you have all those sea turtles, that's high biodiversity. You can't just ignore it.
Okay, thank you. So we are now going to put up the pictures that you have submitted of Assomption. And if you could talk us a little bit about the difference between the two developments that are proposed.
Yeah, I mean, here's another difference. You're dealing with two different species of turtles. Now, hawksbills weigh about 60, 70 kilos. They're fairly petite as sea turtles go. It's not too petite, but, they kind of crawl up, they go under the bushes, they do their thing, and then they come back. Green turtles are huge. They're 3 times as big. They like 200 kilos, super powerful. They like digging in a deep sand beach. They're like bulldozers. And they're just, moving across the beach and throwing sand all over the place. I mean, they really need to have a lot of space. And so you can't just say, 40 meters above the high tide line and think that's going to be enough for them. It's definitely going to be problematic because they need room to do their thing. And especially if you have, what I'm particularly concerned about is the lighting.
Could you please talk to us about that? In view of the development being set, the maximum is 40 meters back.
Yeah.
From the minimum is 40
minimum
meters back.
40.
Sorry, minimum from the beach crest, and the fact that the buildings had already, I suppose, had reached architectural drawing stage.
Yeah.
Before the ESIA. Could you comment about that?
That's right. Yeah, that concerned me because, in fairness to the ICS who wrote the ESIA, I think that they were in a bind probably because they were, told. I assume I don't know this, but I assume that they were kind of, told to do it a certain way, and
Okay.
that's all I can imagine because. Especially on a place like Assumption where your vegetation is already limited, it's kind of dry, the vegetation's a bit scrubby, you even need to go farther back because you need to be able to, have a screen to stop the lighting getting from the buildings to the beach. And so if you have it too close, and there's not dense vegetation, it's a disaster from a turtle's perspective.
In what sense are they affected?
Okay, there's a couple problems. One is that sea turtles, if a sea turtle goes to the beach, comes out of its nest, it heads towards the sea. And the way it knows where the sea is it looks for the brightest point on the horizon. And the brightest point on the horizon will generally be the sea because it's reflecting, even when it looks perfectly dark to us, they see something else. Turtles do not see what we see. Turtles see blue light really well, and they don't see yellow light very well. When we see yellow light,
So that's how they oriented themselves back to the sea.
back to the sea as hatchlings, and then if the females though and also so the hatchlings are attracted to the light. So if you have artificial light behind the beach, they will go the wrong way because they'll go to the brightest point. So if the brightest point's the sea, everything's cool, but if the brightest point is behind, it's not good.
Where could that bright light be emitted from?
Well, what I was very concerned about was when I attended that first stakeholders meeting.
The scoping
It
meeting?
was the very first meeting.
It's called scoping, the scoping
It was,
meeting.
yeah. And they were showing pictures of the kind of buildings they were going to put. And I thought, oh my God, these have big picture windows, lots of light coming out. And I actually talked to the architect at that meeting. And I said, are you taking care about the turtles? Oh, yes, we've got it under control. We're only going to use green light. Turtles see green really well, So I was concerned about that. And so what we have is an outer island with a completely different type of development than we've had at all the other IDC islands where there's a hotel. The other ones are much more modest.
So can you give me the difference between those big picture windows emitting light from the architectural structure compared to Platt, for example?
Yeah, well, Platt has, they're far back, and I think that they've taken care to shade their lights. So one of the things you want to do is, you don't want a lot of light on the outside, and so you can control that by putting your lights very low down on the ground. And also the wavelengths of lights that you use makes a difference. So you want the warmer lights, which are warm as in the yellow-red range, and you don't want to have blue lights. And this is another problem we have nowadays with artificial lighting, is that LED is cheaper to run, and it is powerful. And even when you have a white LED light, it is full of blue. And I gave you some materials that describe that. So we may think that we're looking at white, but we're actually looking at a lot of blue. And the blue light affects wildlife. It definitely affects turtles, but it also affects people. It's not good for us either. It's the blue light from the LEDs and from our computers that are causing insomnia.
Our telephones as well.
Yeah, exactly. So what worries me with Assumption is that you have a different kind of development. It's not your old style kind of quiet outer island, people enjoying nature and stars sort of place. It's people who really like to. They like light,
Yeah.
And the problem is, at night, they're going to have all these picture windows, and everything will be lit up probably on the outside and on the inside, and the lights come through the windows and outside.
Okay.
But there are ways to control that.
Okay. So that could be mitigated.
It definitely can be mitigated. And this is what I find a bit frustrating, is that turtle-friendly, so-called turtle-friendly lighting in a turtle area, it's become a science now. The Convention on Migratory Species which Seychelles has been a party to since I think at least 20 years now, has actually put out a big report about light pollution in natural areas. And they give all these descriptions about how to control it, what are the mitigating steps to take. And if you look around the world in places like in Florida, where you've got this long coastline of Sea Turtle Beach with a lot of development, also along the coast of Australia, they are putting in place regulations that, okay, you can develop there, but you have to do this, so that you're not going to disturb the turtles. And we in Seychelles could do the same thing. There's a formula for it.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that formula really should be part of our EIA regulations, because it's a science now. It's not just like guessing, let's be turtle friendly. It's a serious science.
You had put in those controls in your ESIA for Platt.
For Platt, I did. I wasn't as specific, but I outlined exactly, what kind of steps needed to be taken. Nowadays, if I were to do it again, I'd really be specific. Use these LEDs, use this kind of bulb, blah, blah, blah.
And these are not contained in the Assomption ESIA?
No, the Assumption ESIA just says use turtle-friendly lighting. And the developers say, we are.
Okay. But no specs are given.
No specs are given, and that's it's. I think it's just and in fairness, our EIA regulations have never made that necessary, but I think it should be moving forward.
Apart from light, are the turtles affected by anything else?
Oh, turtles are they're affected by different things. They will, if there's you don't want to have too much motor activity. So for example, off that beach during the daytime, as you saw from the pictures that the morning people showed, there was, even in the middle of the day, were a lot of green turtles. And that was in December. December is low season in the outer islands. There is no out of season for green turtles. There is a no season, you know,
We were told they come up all year round. At
all year
Assomption.
round. And December is pretty low. So as the season goes on, you can expect to find a lot more. So you don't want things like jet skis or boats or a lot of, you know, human activity zooming around off
Okay.
that beach.
And would noise affect them, apart from noise on the sea, but noise from land? Would it affect them?
Yeah, it's not super clear how noise affects them. They do have ears. I mean, you can't see them, but they're in their heads. So if there's too much noise, that could certainly, I would think it would disturb them.
Okay.
But we don't have a real lot of information about that.
Okay.
The main thing is light. Light is really an issue.
Okay. So you are concerned about the impact of the hotel development on the sea turtle population?
Well, I am, because it's such an important sea turtle population. You know, I think one thing people have to realize is what controls the number of turtles we have in the sea is not the sea, it's the nesting beach. And nesting beaches are under pressure all around the world, including in Seychelles. You know, you get more, because people like beaches too, obviously. And so you get more and more development along the coast. And also you have, you know, with climate change, we have documented, even in Seychelles, sea level rise. And so as the sea level comes up, it's really important that these beaches can kind of flex, you know, and grow if they need to. And so in these high islands, high outer islands like Assumption, you have like they were showing this morning in the slides, you have a lot of sand that goes quite far back. And so if the sea starts to come up, the beach can move back, you know, and so the turtles will be able to kind of always have a place to nest. Until it gets too high, in which case, you know, we go underwater. But if you have a building 40 meters back, I mean, they have nowhere to go. You know, the sea comes up, the beach gets narrower and narrower, and, you know, you're finished.
Thank you. So you've outlined your concerns about the development, and your concerns primarily concern sea turtles.
That's
is
what I
your
feel
expertise.
most qualified to talk about. And they seem to have been underrepresented by most people, so I'm happy to
Thank you.
give them a...
Is there anything else you would like to direct our attention to in this respect?
Let me think if I... I think it's most of what, you know, what I
Thank
wanted
you.
to talk about. The two issues really are lighting, which has never been defined, and a setback line, which really, you know, on a place like Assumption, they could have gone as far back as the middle of the island if necessary.
Yes.
You know, so that's what concerns me. Why be stuck at 40? And it's because probably I think the developers wanted to be as close to the sea as possible. But
Indeed.
it's a problem. And I think that also another thing that was, you know, that I thought was interesting that I hadn't actually given much thought to this morning that Amir and Rich mentioned was with all these deep holes behind the beach, you know, you're going to have hatchlings going back towards the light and falling into holes, and you won't even know about it. You know, so it's very worrisome.
Thank you. Would you like to conclude with anything?
Well, I'd like to conclude. I'm hoping that something can be done to, you know, to let me say one thing. I have always been in favor of having a ecotourism development on Assumption.
Well, while you're on the topic, what do you understand by that?
Yes. Well, to me, as I understand ecotourism, is it doesn't have to be small, but it has to have low impact, and it has to take into account the environment in which you are existing, and it also should be taking in the human population. So I think, you know, generally, if you look it up online, you know, that'll be how they define it. You're taking in the cultural, sociological issues, and also being compatible with the natural ecosystems. And so I think that, you know, to me, I've always thought Assumption was a perfect place to have an ecotourism development where people could have access to Aldabra, done in the right way. They don't just do it themselves. They, you know, they would make arrangements with SIF and go across. But when you visit Aldabra, you don't stay overnight. Nobody stays overnight. And if people are lucky, maybe they can go to Settlement Beach and watch some turtles nesting. But if you were living on Assumption, staying on Assumption as a hotel guest, you could go see turtles every night. And if it was, as long as it was done in a way that was not going to, destroy the turtle population. So I think, I'm not opposed to development at all. I just think it's a question of having
Yeah.
the right kind of development.
So do you think that the type of development proposed and 20 or 30% built on Assumption right now fits the picture of an ecotourism project?
No. No, I don't think so. Because, well, for several reasons. One is it hasn't tried to adapt to fit into the ecosystem in a way that it's inconspicuous. It's just kind of, here I am, blah, so that worries me. And then also, I would like to see something that's more friendly to Seychellois, so that Seychellois could come and visit these islands and have better access to Aldabra. And from what I can gather, they're not going to be too keen to have
Well,
that.
$10,000 a night is cost prohibitive for any Seychellois in any case, I would
Exactly.
imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So it's but it wasn't. I don't think it was designed with the environment in mind. It was it could be put on Mars if they had enough water. It really isn't fitting.
Okay. If you could just, because I think there were some mistakes made this morning in terms of describing the rough season and the two different seasons in Assumption. Could you confirm for us when is the northwest trade monsoon and when the southeast
Yeah, the
trade
Northwest
monsoon
usually starts around October, and it goes through until about March or April. It's changing nowadays, weather's getting weird, but that's the Northwest, and that's going to be the best weather. And then the Van Sweat, the southeast, will start around April, May, and go around through till September.
Okay.
And that will be the roughest.
Have you stayed on Assumption during the rough weather?
Well, I back when I first came to Seychelles, I was a lot younger, so I didn't pay any attention to what time of year I was going out to the islands. I'd go anytime, It was only after several years I thought, oh yeah, that's not a good time to go. It's pretty rough. So I have been out there during that time.
What is it like? What is it like? For
It's
those-
rough. But if you're you come out on a yacht, or on the cargo vessel, and it's just rough, But
And what are the conditions on land?
The conditions on land, actually, the conditions on land, I don't recall them being that terrible. I think conditions on land are probably okay because it's also breezy, it's cooler. You're probably going to have hotter weather like this
But
time.
you wouldn't be able to swim.
But yeah, swimming is a problem. Swimming could be a problem,
Okay.
and so and going out if you wanted to go out fishing and stuff, it would be a little bit
Would be difficult.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, just one other matter. You mentioned about the sea turtles coming up on the beach because it is one of the best nesting sites in Seychelles. There are propositions for walkways to the beach.
On the beach?
And on the beach, yeah. How do you think this will impact on the sea turtle population?
Well, it depends. I guess a walkway. I have seen turtle nesting beaches in other parts of the world where they put a walkway on piles, and I suppose if you did it right, you could
It could be possible.
You could do that, and make it high enough so that your big green turtles won't get stuck underneath them. But it would be, these would be major structures. This is not a small thing, because you don't want something sitting on the beach. You need something that's going to be,
Okay, so it would be elevated.
it would have to be. I think it would have to be elevated.
It wouldn't be along the coast road or anything like that.
Well, I mean, it depends. If you're in the area where the sea turtles are nesting, you definitely need to be elevated. And I've seen these sorts of things in Florida and Australia, where they're raised up, and it kind of keeps, because you don't want people stomping around on the beach.
Okay.
Even with an ecotourism facility, you'd want to
Okay.
make it a little bit lighter
And,
touch.
and if there is a lot of people walking, I mean, we're thinking of the amount of guests for 37 villas and 500 workers, so that would have an impact as well.
Yeah, I think having people walking around on the beach too much has the potential to be problematic if it's too much. They can put up with a certain amount of people walking on beaches, but you know what happens is when the egg clutches are hatching, the egg clutches hatch out down below the surface of the sand in this damp sand, and then the hatchlings kind of scratch and wiggle and move this air chamber up through the sand, and when it gets to the top, it collapses, and then they come out. And so the problem is if you've got too much activity on the beach, you can cause these chambers to crush turtles. And then I've seen this happen on beaches. The sand on this beach is quite coarse, so it is hard to dig in, and it easily collapses. And if it collapses too early, the turtles will suffocate because they can no longer move, so they can't get out, and then they will have trouble breathing. So you have to be a little bit careful.
Okay, thank you. You've described the difficulty, sorry. Thank you, my secretary, for reminding me about this. How do you mitigate that difficulty that you've just talked about?
Which one?
About the fear of so many people walking on the beach and compacting the...
Well, I mean, you don't want lots and lots of people walking on a major turtle nesting beach. You know, I mean, if you look at the other outer islands, for example, people can walk on the beach because you've got, a lot of undeveloped coastline, and people can walk, and it's not really problematic. So I don't know how many people they'd actually have,
Well, 37 villas and a staff population, they're thinking about 500 staff.
Yeah, I mean, if all of them are walking on the beach, that's problematic. So,
No, we assume they won't all be walking on the beach at the same time.
No, not at the same time. So, I guess.
Thank you. Is there any final statement you'd like to make?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that it is possible to limit the impact, especially of these 37 villas, and to turn it, turn the maybe this. I mean, I'm sure this is extremely complicated, and I'm certainly not an expert on this sort of stuff. But if there's some way to, I know there's been a lot of damage done already, but if they could, kind of stop what's being done and maybe take some of the villas perhaps and develop them in a different sort of way, and maybe have a more modest ecotourism development, or I think people have also talked about having like a research center,
a shared facility.
Yeah, and I really understand why Seychelles needs to have a presence in the outer islands. Aldabra is not protecting the western flank of the Seychelles. Mm-hmm. It's just sitting there with all its nature. Assumption has the potential to do that if it's done well. So I can kind of see, the advantage of possibly, putting a small Coast Guard facility there so that you can control the borders. Mm. And I'm certainly not opposed to that in principle. But I'm not, I think what we're talking about here is completely different. I don't see any Coast Guard. I just see lights.
Thank you, Dr. Mortimer. We appreciate you coming to the Commission. You have submitted a report to us with some attachments. The whole bundle, we would like you, if you could, to produce them and we mark them as COI 17.
17.
Thank you, COI 17. And anything you send in relation to that.
Okay, and you want them as a...
Well, we have them. You've already submitted them, so we will mark them as COI 17.
You will mark them as that. Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, and thank you very much for doing this. I think this is really, very important.
Thank you, and we depend on witnesses like you helping us with our work, so we're very grateful.
Yeah, I hope there's more witnesses that come.
I hope so too. Thank you. We are going to end the public session now. In fact, we are going to end the public session to do with the two issues that we outlined we would be looking at this week, which is the lease and the sublease of Assomption Island to Ocean Breeze International Limited, and all the environmental and conservation issues associated with the development. We will be taking testimony in camera for a number of weeks, actually, and we have some desktop work to do with the other matters within our terms of reference. We are hoping to come back in the first week of March and work and finish taking all the public testimony then left with the other issues that we have to look at. So thank you for your attention and thank you for your patience.